Thank you, thank you. Tangi to zenyu zone dawa danje pa mi chi tambi chene don za pa kondam te la cha sa lo sanje cha da zo chi chona la janje ba da ne che su che da ji sun je do la ben je sanje do ba cha sanje cha da zo chi chona la janje ba da ne che da gi ji sun je me chona do la ben je sanje do ba shon sanje cha da zo chi chona janje ba da ne che su che da gi ji sun je me chona do la ben je sanje do ba shon. Okay. First, we're going to meditate on mind for a few minutes. Then, second, we're going to meditate on emptiness for a few minutes, okay? First, meditate on mind. What is mind? Where is your mind? What is the true nature of your mind? Just you focus on your mind and look at your mind. Just look at your mind. Focus on your mind. As I mentioned before, the mind itself are very clear and very like a clear light, clarity, and it has potential to know everything, see everything, experience everything. Mind is not color, mind is not white, not black, not red, not yellow. Mind is not form. Mind we cannot see with our eye consciousness. We cannot see eyes with eyes. Where is your mind? Mind is everywhere in our body, separated from all of our mind, whole of our body. Where is your mind? Where is your mind? You just try to find your mind and look at your mind. Try to understand true nature of your mind. Okay, so now we're going to meditate on emptiness for a few minutes, okay? You try to find yourself. Where is I? Who am I? You try to find yourself from your crown to toes, head to foot. You try to find from your all of your body parts. Where is I? It is very clear. Our head, not I. Our shoulder, not I. Hands, not I. Legs, not I. All of our body parts, not I. So where is I? Our mind is not I. Our head is not I. It's very clear. We can, we can do operation. We can, cut uh, our head. Skin not I. Hair is not I. Brain not I. All our, inch part of head not I. So where is I? Our hand is not I. We can change our hand. We can cut our hand. We can give our hand to others. This is not I. All our other body parts, not I. We have so many different body parts, not I. Where is I? But we should understand one thing is very important. We cannot be found ourselves, but this doesn't mean not not existed. Still we are existent. Still we are here. Still we can do many things. But still we cannot be found ourselves. Where is I? You must meditate, on this emptiness, to until to until you get something special feeling like yourself, like as zero, and feeling like as nothing, just as just name. In this way, through this kind of the meditation, you can develop understanding of emptiness. Always we meditate for a few minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you know, try to find yourself, observe where is I, and meditate until to get something special feeling is like you are like zero, and oh, just imputation. It's just imputation, just name, just labor, just by the mind. If we meditate on this emptiness, constantly, definitely we will see and understand more about emptiness. Then we can realize everything is just like labor, just name, just imputation, just like zero. Everything just like zero, Zero is just zero, but still existence. Zero means, this zero is in just like, does it means not existed, but still existence, but still we cannot be found. Okay, so, as I mentioned that before, we cannot be found ourselves. For example, our head is not I. It is very clear, isn't it? Our hand is not I. It's very clear. All ours, these body parts, not I. Heart, liver, kidneys. This most important body parts, not I. Very clear. But still, of course, I is existence here. So where is I? According to the Buddhist highest, this view of highest school, Pasangika view, everything is just a name. Everything is just imputation. Everything is just, by the conceptual imputation. That means everything just by the name. Good or bad or, so we cannot be found. In reality, everything is just name and just a labor, just by the imputation, conceptual imputation. This is also very clear. Good or bad or beautiful or ugly or everything we cannot be found. We cannot be found. In reality, same emptiness, just imputation by mind. Everything is just empty of true existence. Everything we cannot be found. Everything empty of inherent existence. Just like zero, we cannot be found. But still, of course, existence. Zero is very important. The main fundamental of the counting numbers. Exactly same. I, it's very important. I means we can create good karma. We can purification. We can do purification. We can achieve Buddhahood with this life, with this I. But still, we cannot be found. So that's why we should understand what is different I and conventional I. Conventional I, we can, it's, still existence. But ultimate I, we cannot be found. Everything is just like zero. So that's why I mentioned before, when we meditate on emptiness, every day meditate on emptiness until you know, you must until you to get something special feel. Your feeling become like, oh, I'm just like zero. Oh, I'm just maybe just like name. In this way, in this kind of the stage, step by step, then you can develop understand of emptiness. Every morning, meditate, try to be find yourself. Where is I? Where is I? What is I? What is Tashi? Where is Tashi? My name is Tashi, but I cannot be found myself. Tashi is just a name, just imputation. Like, I tell, my friends, the best example is like passport, Passport is very useful and very important. Without passport, we cannot travel, But you try to find passport, you cannot be found passport. Exactly the same as, as I. First page not I, second page not, sorry, first page not passport, second page is not passport. So where is passport? You have the one small book, okay, light book. This is you call the what we call this is passport, but we cannot be found this passport. Where is this passport? First page not passport, second page is not passport. Oh, this few pages not passport. Then where is passport? For example, on passport you have one very important stamp, but this is not passport. You have very beautiful picture on passport, first page, but this is not passport. So where is passport? We cannot be found, but still this is existence. Still we can use. Still it's very useful. It has very high value, but still we cannot be found. So like this, if first page is passport, then if you maybe we can use this only first page. In immigration, you show this first page, but nobody accept this is passport as passport. So now, what is the meaning of the passport? We should uh, this experiment and uh, analyze. Well, what is passport? Where is passport? Always we say, "Oh, my passport." Passport is belong to yourself. Very important belonging to yourself. But where is passport? Exactly the same as I. Where is I? I is of course very important. I come from past life. I will go to next life. I create good karma. I do many things for other beings. For example, this, but still we cannot be found. I. Where is I? Very expensive, cars. Same. We cannot be this expensive car. Where is car? BMW. Where is BMW? Car. Wheels not I. Controller wheels not I. Machine is not I. Cover is not I. So where is, oh sorry, not car. Where is car? Mentally, separated, all these parts. Not where is car? Mentally, you separate it, your parts, body parts, and cars, imported parts, passports, this kind of the imported parts, mentally you separated these parts, you cannot be found. Everything is same. So now you should understand more about I. What is I? Where is I? What is passport? Where is passport? Passport just like zero. We cannot be found like zero. But this important, of course, like zero. Zero is very important. Same like I, passport, car, everything is same. Still we can use. So, but we have also very, very big question when we sense of since we are very young, we have this feeling, sense of I. Why we have this sense of I since we are so young? We don't have compassion. We don't have love, kindness, but we have this sense of I, me. Why? This we ask to ourselves, question to yourself, why? Everyone same. We have this sense, something innately. We have this sense of I, but we don't have compassion, sense of compassion, sense of love. So this very this. And so many people think there's that, oh, maybe I mind, maybe I, you know mind, you know continuum mind, I, maybe I. Many people say that. Of course, according to the Buddhist philosophy, many lower schools, this they accept, our mind is as I. But of course, there's a higher, schools, Pasangika view, Madhyamika view. Our mind is also I. Number one, why mind cannot be I? Why? Why? Because we have so many different minds. How can it be I? Number two, mind always belong to us. Always we feel we have this kind of the sense of this kind of feeling. I means boss. I means owner of these minds. Mind always like my hand, my mind, my hand, my body. Always we have this feeling. Mind belong to us. We are owner of this mind. Something like I mind is object, and I means something like subject. We have this feeling. So mind cannot be I. So that's why highest, according to the highest view, according to Pasangika's view, everything is just imputation. Number one. Number two, everything is just a name. BMW just name. Tashi is just name. Drinks, food, so everything just name. But you try to find your name, also you cannot be found. Your name also just name. Name also you cannot be found. So that's why everything is just by mind, conceptual imputation. That's why good or bad, everything depends on yourself, depends on your mind, depends on your conceptual imputation. Good or bad, not uh, truly existence, inherently existence. So how we can say this is bad, this is good? Always how we can make this what is discrimination between good or bad. When you see something bad, you are very unhappy, sad. For example, it's just not necessary because this bad things is not truly existence, not inherent existence. Everything just a name, enemy, friend, just name. Everything is, of course, this kind of things, change very fast within 1 minute. Numberless times change within 1 minute, 2 minutes, instant. So that's why, uh, we should understand more about emptiness. This is very important. But as I mentioned that before, first we should understand, interdependence of cause and effect. This is very important. All the impermanence, all the compounds depends on cause, different causes, different conditions. Like our body, like our mind, like our life, depends on many different causes, different conditions. That's why our life is not true existence. Our life is not inherent existence. Our life is in our body is emptying of the true existence. As I mentioned that before, 1 cup of water, this depends on many different causes, different conditions. And our whole life, sometimes summer, coming summer, sometimes winter, sometimes autumn, sometimes cold, sometimes hot. All these things, depends on their different causes and conditions. So that's why our happiness also depends on many different causes and different conditions. Our suffering also depends on many different causes, different conditions. Not true existence. So that's why Buddha said we can change everything. That means everything depends on cause and effect, cause and conditions. That's why we can change. If you try to catch, opportunity to change on the right way, in the right way, you can change. And if you try to change for better, you can change, because everything due to this condition and causes. This is many of the interdependence of cause and effect. Actually, we are human beings the same. We have mind, we have a body, we have a feel. Same, basically same, but still many, in somewhere many things we have different things, because of from different causes, different conditions. So first we should understand more interdependence of causes and effects. Then we learn more about mind. What is the cause of mind? What is cause condition of mind? Then where is from mind? Then hopefully we can understand more about past life, next life. First you must study in detail about cause and effect, deeper and deeper, deeper, deeper. Then we can have on ourselves some proof to we have this we have past life, next life. Otherwise, of course, many people cannot believe in the past life and next life. Especially some scientist people cannot believe past life and next life. But if you really study, deeply, this about mind, what is cause of mind, what is condition of mind, then you will know about past life, next life. First, we should study about cause and effect, and cause and condition and effects. As I mentioned last yesterday, mind from this mind arises from mind from not water, not rocks, not earth, not 4 elements, isn't it? Mother's this blood and father's drops can be condition of the mind, but this is not main cause. This is not main, those things not main substantial cause of mind. Well, what is a substantial cause of mind? This is past mind, previous mind. This is very clear. As I mentioned that before, you plant, green, then grown green. We get green. If you plant, potato, this we can find potato. Potato is from potato. Tomato is from tomato. Potato is not from tomato. Tomato is not from potato. Then they need the unique cause, substantial cause, special cause. Exactly the same as our mind also has special cause and substantial cause. This is not from tomato, not from blood, not from flesh. For the for practice, compassion, compassion for the sentient beings, all the sentient beings. Also, we need to learn more about cause and effect to practice compassion. Very important. If you not understand, cause and effect, you cannot practice compassion. No. Number one, we cannot understand what is suffering. If you don't understand what is suffering, what is the cause of suffering, we don't have chance to practice compassion for all the sentient beings. We can say, we can talk about compassion, but in a practical, we cannot practice compassion without understand the cause of suffering. Suffering, what is suffering? That's why we need to learn more about interdependence of cause and effect. So as I mentioned that before, same, everything is, depends on cause and effect. Our happiness cause of, depends on cause and effect. What is it? Conditions, suffering, same. When we angry, where is from angry? What is main cause of anger? We should, this contemplate and analyze. Then you can control anger. Otherwise we blame on others. Oh, anger, my anger from others. From you, we blame. 100% we blame on others. This is total wrong. This is not unfair. Maybe other people can be conditioned to get angry, but not the main cause. So where is what is the main cause of your anger? So what is the true nature of anger? This also just name. This also can like be zero, like zero. So you look at your anger, you cannot be found. You little bit, if you have something, special feel, when you meditate on, anger, then, anger automatically, naturally, anger disappear. Anger will be, disappear, will go. When you realize what is the true nature of anger, what is the cause of anger, this naturally, anger will disappear from your, separated from your mind. Then your mind can be free from, anger. That's why this is most important. We need to learn more about cause and effects. So according to the Buddhist viewpoint, all the sufferings from ignorance and attachment and anger. This what we call main three poses, main cause of sufferings, problems. But attachment and anger also from ignorance. Why we have this ignorance? Why? Why we have such stone ignorance? Because we not understand about emptiness. We don't have wisdom, realization of emptiness. That's why we have stone ignorance. That's why we have always problem. So that's why, as I mentioned it before, this if we practice emptiness, then this can help to develop compassion. Because if you understand more about emptiness, then you can realize what is the cause of suffering. All the sentient beings, have suffering of death, suffering of sickness, suffering of age, suffering of uh, suffering of death, suffering of So all this suffering is from where? Ignorance, grasping mind, clinging mind, all this suffering is from there. All is this root of ignorance and ignorance. So according to the Pasangika's view, of course, if you really want to be free from suffering, you should understand about emptiness. Then you can be free from ignorance. If you can be free from ignorance, you free from ignorance, then you can be free from suffering of samsara. We believe, at least we have a very small headache. This also from, ignorance. That means, first, all this kind of the problems from bad karma. Bad karma, created from ours, ignorance. Why we have jealousy? Because ignorance. Why we are angry? Because ignorance. Everything, created from ours, ignorance. Why we cannot realize, what is realize and why we don't understand, what is the cause of suffering? Because we have, ignorance. As I mentioned this morning, wisdom in the realization of emptiness. This is like tool to cut, this tree. This is something like knife. If you have knife, then you can cut off tree. Exactly the same as if you have this realization of emptiness, then you can cut off your ignorance. But still, you need compassion and bodhicitta. Because in our scriptures, Buddha's teaches, Nagarjuna's teaches, this give example, bodhicitta and compassion like in a hand, and wisdom, realization of emptiness is like a knife to cut off tree. If you have very strong hand, and if you have good knife, very sharp knife, then you can cut off tree. Exactly the same as if you practice compassion method side, if you can practice wisdom, then you have very strong hand and you have very sharp knife, also tool, then you can cut off tree easily. So that's why first we should understand, if you really want to practice compassion properly, we should understand suffering and its cause of suffering. What is the cause of suffering? What is the cause of death? What is the cause of age? What is the cause of birth? For example, what is cause of sickness? Why we born in samsara, die in samsara, and we know why we born again, again, again. Why we suffer? Experience this kind of suffering again, 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 endless. Why? Because ignorance. Actually, nobody want to die. Nobody want to, get old. Nobody want to get sickness. But still, we have to do this. This is until the nature of our life, because we have this karma. Karma to, born in samsara, die in samsara, again, 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 suffering again, endless. According to the Buddhist viewpoint, we can stop, this ordinary death. If you give up negative karmas and ignorance, attachment, and anger, then you can stop, this kind of ordinary death. If you stop and liberated from this ordinary death, then you can free from suffering of samsara. Then you can achieve this liberation from suffering of samsara. This is the meaning of liberation. If you free from, if you be free from ordinary death, this is free from meaning of liberation, free from suffering of samsara. So that's why, if you really we want to good practitioner of compassion, we should understand this kind of things: cause of suffering, cause of suffering. Cause of suffering. Many people realize this, and many people think, oh, my family is cause of suffering. My wife is cause of suffering. My husband is cause of suffering. My child cause of suffering. Totally wrong. Oh, this country cause of suffering. Totally wrong. Really, really, family is not a cause of suffering. Country is not a cause of suffering. Some people, oh, I'm very poor because so that's why I have suffering. This is wrong. If you are very rich, but still you have suffering. Still, we in Tibet we call this suffering of suffering of wealth. If you are rich, still you have suffering. Suffering from wealth, suffering from money. So that's why, as I mentioned that before, everything depends on mind. This country, this life, this is not cause of suffering. Main cause of suffering is in ignorance and grasping mind and clinging, to this life, reputation, name, happy life, this life. This kind of conceptions, the main cause of suffering. So, as I mentioned, so what is meaning of the compassion? Compassion means that the mind's wish, this suffering beings free from suffering. May I all suffering beings free from suffering. This is the meaning of compassion. But we should understand, suffering being. What is suffering? Suffering beings be free from suffering. What is suffering? Suffering means not doesn't mean only headache and only physical problems, not only food problems or not only money problems. Main problems, this suffering of samsara. Suffering of samsara means, suffering of anger, suffering of attachment, suffering of, jealousy, suffering of ignorance, suffering of impermanence, suffering of change, suffering of birth, suffering of death, suffering of sickness. If you realize this clear cause of suffering, then you can, hopefully, we can generate compassion for all the sentient beings. then you can practice compassion for rich people. Otherwise, no, many people, cannot practice, compassion for rich people. Many people see, oh, rich people have no suffering. Look everything fine, but not in reality, not everything fine. Still, they have a lot of problems, isn't it? One master said that, those who are very poor and beggar sleep on the street. They can sleep very well. But with rich people, they sleep in a luxury room and 5-star, but still they cannot sleep well. This is a different between, difference between rich people and poor people. Physical suffering is nothing, according to Buddhist philosophical view, compared to mental problem. For example, nobody society themselves, because of their physical problem. Many people, the society, because of they have a mental illness, they cannot be patient this problem, mental problem, mental illness, much more stronger than physical pain, mental illness. Mental suffering, bigger than, stronger than, more powerful than physical problem, suffering of physical. So when we practice compassion, first we should realize, suffering of this kind of things, different sufferings, 8 different sufferings, 20 different sufferings, 3 different sufferings, Then you can develop compassion. Then when you see, rich people, whether you see rich people or poor people, no matter, you can practice for all the sentient beings. Otherwise, many people, okay, if we have money, then okay, everything fine. Many people think this, their life, relying on money, just, 100% relying on money. If they think, oh, I become rich, then be free from suffering. Totally wrong. This is very, very, what means, big misunderstanding. Then how you can be happy? If you only rely on money, then how you can wait until you become rich? That means Buddha say, oh, always we should be happy for the moment, This is the best way, best life. If you wait for, you become rich, this is too late. It depends on our past karma. Maybe we cannot become rich this life. How we can become rich? That's why, we cannot become rich for the happy, So that's why we need to be happy now, happy for the moment, and appreciate it, our life, what we have. Just be happy with our life, what we have. Really, Buddha said, contentment, practice contentment. What we have. This is best life. Of course, if we have money, if we are very rich, we have many good things, and we have, very high or good, living conditions. But still, miss many things in our mind. Still, we have a lot of problems. So that's why, according to the Buddhist idea, this some samsara means this country is not samsara. This world is not samsara. Family is not samsara. Many people consider that oh, this country is a samsara. My family is a samsara. No, this is totally wrong. So family is not samsara. Friends not samsara. Country is not samsara. As I mentioned before, not a cause of suffering. Even though this is not cause of happiness, happiness with arose from our mind, true happiness, ultimate happiness, long-lasting happiness from our mind, not from outside. It is very clear. If we really want to, practice compassion, we should understand this kind of nature of life, samsaric life. Then you can develop compassion. Otherwise, how we can compassion for others? When you see, some very weak and very poor animals and people on the street, then maybe you can, you want to have, you have something special feeling, but this is not a genuine compassion. As I mentioned, this universal compassion means, compassion for all the sentient beings, not only poor people, not only miserable people or miserable animals on the street. Especially, this for rich people. For of course, we can practice compassion for godness, gods and goddess, for example. All the suffering, samsaric beings, those who have ignorance, those who have bad karma, those who have who are still in samsara. We should practice compassion for all those people, all those beings. And when we practice, for invisibles, may all the suffering beings free from suffering. That means, free from suffering means suffering. Suffering is some suffering of samsara. Not this, just not only, suffering of physical problems. So that's why first we should understand more about the samsara. What is meaning of samsara? What is the root of samsara? What is the cause of samsara? What is cause of suffering? So that's why we need to learn more about Four Noble Truths. Very important. Buddha was, after achieved Buddhahood, after 49 days, he taught about, this Four Noble Truths, what we call, first turn of Dharma, wheel of Dharma. First time, he talked about suffering. This is suffering. This is the truth of suffering. Buddha said, this is the first Buddha's word. When he was, turn wheel of Dharma, first, turn wheel of Dharma. First, he said, this is the truth. This is the truth of suffering. This is the truth of suffering. What is it? This is. What is this? Is truth of suffering. This means our body. Our body. Our body is truth of suffering, Buddha said. if we really want to practice compassion, genuine compassion properly, first we should realize this ordinary body is the truth of suffering. Buddha said this is the truth of suffering. This is the truth of suffering means, this our body is truth of suffering. Our body is samsara, this ordinary body. As we have as long as this kind of ordinary body, we have suffering. We have so many different suffering with this body. That's why Buddha said this is the truth of suffering. So that's why when we practice compassion or immeasurable compassion, first we realize, first we understand very clear about this kind of sufferings. May all beings is free from suffering. What is free from suffering? What is suffering? Suffering of samsara, suffering of this ordinary body, age, sick, death. In this way, then we can develop compassion. Then we can practice genuine compassion and universal compassion. Otherwise, okay, maybe we can practice compassion for our parents, but this is not genuine compassion. Or maybe we can practice for those very poor people and poor animals, but this is not a genuine compassion. So that's why we learn more about nature of life, samsaric life, and for noble truths. First, we should learn about, truth of suffering, truth cause of suffering. Then, okay, maybe you can develop compassion, genuine compassion. And you can practice, immeasurable loving kindness, immeasurable compassion. Everyone can say, oh, compassion, but compassion comes from where? Many people don't know. Many people never, concerned about cause of suffering, cause of compassion. First, we should ask to ourselves, what is the cause of compassion? It is ask to yourself, what is the cause of compassion? What is the cause of suffering? So that's why, so many Indian masters and of course, Buddha, first we focus on our parents, meditate, their what is four immeasurables, First you meditate on your parents, and then your friends. Gradually focus on your, relatives, friends, and focus, neutral person, someone who is neither helpful or nor harmful. Meditate. And fourth, focus, on enemies or someone who dislike, and meditate. Finally, if you focus on, sentient beings and meditate, this is a very important, basic, practice of Buddhism. It should be, practiced in daily life. This is very, very, very important mind training. First, we practice for our parents. Second, we practice compassion for relatives, friends, then neutral people. Then we extend this compassion for the enemies, especially those who dislike and not kind to you. Slowly, slowly, this is a very good mind training. First, for example, first we may my parents be free from suffering, free from suffering of samsara, free from age, suffering of age, free from suffering of death, free from suffering of sickness. For example, not only free from the headache, not only free from the have physical problems, legs, knees, not like this, Then you extend to your enemies, your enemies also be free from suffering, not only suffering, suffering of samsara, not only suffering of samsara. May all these enemies, be free from cause of suffering, cause of suffering. What is the cause of suffering? Root of ignorance. All the suffering beings be free from the cause of suffering, cause of ignorance. Not suffer of only not suffer of lack of wealth. As I mentioned that before, someone have big problem of money, for example, lack of money. But those people when they get money, then okay, they can be free from suffer of lack of wealth. But still they have suffer of death, suffer of age, suffer of sick, suffer of birth, Still they have suffer of samsara.
Let's make it open for questions.
Okay.
Because in 2 minutes we have lunch.
Okay, anyone have question?
Offline people, questions? Online people, questions? Raise your hands. Anila, do you have questions? No. You have a question or a comment?
No. Question and comment also. Thank you, Keshila. So the cause of suffering, I think, what do you say? Like, I think you haven't told us the cause of suffering. We know, not the cause of suffering, the levels of suffering. Can you explain like the different levels of suffering? Samsaric suffering.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned, suffer of death, suffer of birth, suffer of sick, suffer of age. This is the main 4 types of suffer of samsara. And suffer of anger, suffer of attachment, suffer of jealousy. For example, suffer of these 3 poisons. And suffer of impermanence. All this kind of sufferings, part of suffer of samsara. Suffer of ignorance, the worst one, suffer of Actually, in according to Lamri, Lama Tsongkhapa's teaching, 3 types of suffering, 8 types of suffering, 16 something suffering, and 20 suffering. Many different sufferings. For example, in the suffering of suffering of wealth, suffering of wealth, suffering of lack of wealth. for example, isn't it? In Tibet, we say, you be doing, maybe doing, If we have a lot of money, still we have, suffer of wealth. If we don't have money, still we have suffer of, lack of wealth, for example, and suffer of, separated from our, relatives, parents, for example. And the suffering of, we always, face difficulties and meet difficult, bad people, for example, so many different suffer of samsara. And the subtle, the most subtle suffer of samsara is, suffer of impermanence, suffer of change, all the times change our life, As I mentioned before, change many times within 1 second, and instant, this is suffer of samsara. This kind of suffering, all the suffering beings, samsaric beings have this suffering, suffer of change, suffer of suffering, suffer of suffering, suffer of change, suffer of, pervasive. This suffering is the most subtle suffering of samsara.
The third level of suffering, pervasive condition suffering,
Yeah,
is that the one you're talking about? Our body, is that the third level of suffering? Body,
yes,
body itself
yes.
is all pervasive.
Body itself, nature.
Yeah.
Nature is suffer of pervasive.
Oh, that's the one you.
Yeah, but many people cannot recognize this as suffering, isn't it?
Yeah.
But according to the Buddhist and Lamris, if we drink a lot, this also suffer of, what is happiness of contaminated.
Suffering of change.
Yeah, this of suffer of change. Happiness of contentment.
Contaminated karma.
And this is, of course, a suffer of change. But now many people cannot recognize this is as suffering, isn't it? If you drink 1 cup of wine, alcohol, okay, you can enjoy. But if you use a lot, more than 10 cups, 5 cups, then you get problem. All this, turn to, suffering, problem. This is the meaning of suffering of change, isn't it?
So I really like your teaching on we need to have this clear understanding on this. So what you're saying is we need to have a clear understanding the nature of suffering and the causes of suffering. And when you have a clear understanding, then you can have a genuine compassion. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, it won't be that genuine.
No. Then this is in Tibet, we call just Ninja Zuma. Zuma means an artificial, compassion. So, just if you compassion for just your loved ones, and your parents, and just, poor people, just poor animals, weak animals. This is not genuine compassion. This is good heart. This can be good heart. Okay, we call what we call good heart. But good heart is not part of the compassion, isn't it? Good heart is very important. This can, fundamental of compassion. But this is not genuine compassion. If really we want to practice genuine compassion, universal compassion, then we should understand cause of suffering of samsara. Life and nature of life.
Thank you.
Any question?
No one? Online people? Questions? Can I try to do a tricky question? We have 10 minutes. On the Theravada school, we have the idea of bhavanga. So for different conscious, we have like 6 type of conscious in the Geluk school, right?
What kind of
For our conscious. My point
conscious?
is,
You means consciousness.
yeah,
Consciousness.
yeah. Because my point is, my difficult to identify the non-self or the empty of self. It is, we have the rebirth, right? So it seems to me that there is a kind of essence that is going through one life to another, right? There is something that is remaining and going to another next life. There is something that is remaining.
Suffering. Suffering.
No, something like
Suffering.
you die,
Yeah.
but something goes to the next life. So in the Theravada school, they will call maybe bhavanga. The Yogacara will sell the alaya vijnana. So there is something that is going on, right, for the next life. This something makes to me difficult to accept the idea of there is no I, because there is a kind of essence that is going from a life to another, right?
Yes.
Then to me it seems difficult, you know?
Yeah. Actually, as I mentioned that before, we have so many different minds, different consciousness, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Some very subtle mind. The most subtle mind, this goes to next life.
Yeah.
Okay? And with this subtle mind carry, good karmas, bad karmas. Then we get good life and bad life, So but still, we cannot define I, but this I from past life and goes to next. As I mentioned that before, there are 2 different, eyes, 2 different kinds of I. Conventional I, automatic I. Conventional I comes from past life and going to next life. So that's why we should learn more about emptiness, and we have to know about this conventional I. Then conventional I and ultimate truth I. 2 different eyes. Same as we have 2 truths, yeah.
Yeah, for the truth I heard, but for the eyes I never heard before.
Oh yeah, you need to learn more. Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
That's what I'm learning, Geshe. Keep it house. That's what I'm learning.
Conventional I?
No. The continue.
Continuum, subtle mind.
Yeah.
This goes
so
to
hard.
next life,
So hard.
Because we create a lot of karmas, okay? Good karma, bad karma. All these karmas, stuck on this continuum, continuum mind. This continuum mind goes to next life and carry all the good lives, good karmas and bad karmas to next life. So that in next life, this karmas create a new life, isn't it?
Yeah, until there, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then this thing that's going on give me a sense of I, something
That's
that
why I told you this I means conventional I goes to next life.
is a conventional I. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So there is a conventional I.
Okay.
Or there is
Anyway,
It takes 2-3 years to understand.
so
this.
for example, okay,
So hard.
you try to find yourself, I cannot be found, but still we have so many different feels, hot feel and cold and still headache, Why? Because still conventional I, still there, still here. That's why we have many different feels, different sufferings. But in reality, if you try to find it, you cannot be found.
But then, like this Michelle, conventional I, Geshe Tashi, conventional I. But that thing that goes for the next life is also conventional.
Yes, that's
Why?
why we have a next life. You will go to next life.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's to continue.
Yeah, continue. You will go to continue until the end of suffering, samsara. you're born
Yeah,
again.
but why this is still a conventional if if that is really something that's going on in the
Yes.
continuum, no?
Yeah. Yes, conventional I continue, you know.
No, not the conventional I. The conventional I is Michelle. Michelle die. Conventional
Of course,
I
Michelle
died.
and
That
going to
thing
next
that's
life.
going next life is not conventional.
Yeah, then debate.
Conventional means this impermanent.
Conventional I means, you know, just name, okay? Just imputation,
Okay,
you know. I,
okay,
just name.
okay.
That's why, you know, Tashi going to next life. Tashi, you know, come from past life. Isn't it?
No, it's not
Tashi
Tashi
me.
anymore. Yeah, but it's not Tashi. Because this identity of Tashi, you're gonna die. That thing that's going on is not, seems to me, not conventional anymore. Because it's not Tashi anymore. No, maybe it will be Tashi Rinpoche next life, but it's not Tashi anymore.
This we call, you know, continuum, you know, this. Something like what? Continuum. Continuum.
Like river.
Yeah, like a river. Still our subtle mind, you know, continue journey to next life, next life, next
This
life.
I get it, the continuum I get it. But then, the moment that we stop the river here, in this lifetime, we call this conventional I. This is okay. But it's like if I say that the river, it's not relative, so it's something that is. Makes sense what I'm trying to say? Like the point that this lifetime is a conventional I, but that thing that's coming beginningless and keep going, that thing seems to me kind of not conventional because there's something that's going to different conventionalities.
Yeah, as I mentioned that before, you know, name change, okay?
Yeah.
Conventional, when you
The
when you're
convention.
connected to next life, then you change your name. Only you can change your name, you know, change name, but your continuum is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we go we go into next life. We believe we go into next life. We accept we go into next life because ours, you know, continuum is going to next life. Okay.
I'm thinking about.
We talk more later.
Okay.
Next time.
Lunch break?
Okay.
No
Thank you.
questions anymore?
Thank you.
Okay, so you wanna do?
Thank you.
Thank you, people online. We have 1 hour break now for lunch here. So we come back 2:30 on time, Nepal time. Thank you.